I grew up in a well-to-do Midwestern family in a small town about 2 hours north of, well, more like an hour and 10 minutes north of here, I think. But I was always kind of like the heavyset kid in a group of athletic friends and, got ridiculed a lot, had self-esteem issues, and then just like emotionally disconnected parents.
Yeah.
And I kind of got left out on my own to process all this stuff. And, with I hate to say it, it's really stupid, but like societal norms being what they are for young boys at the time when I was a kid, like, boys don't cry, you don't talk to people about it, you just bury it. And that's what I did.
Thanks so much for listening to No Lions Here with me, Big Panda. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to No Lions Here. My name is Big Panda, and I'm a recovering sex addict. Before we jump into the show today, I definitely want to go ahead and plug the sponsor of the show, Beginning in Institute, out in Boulder, Colorado. Definitely go check out the things that they're doing. If you or anybody you know is suffering from sex or porn addiction, they've definitely got a really great program that they put on out there for guys. I went through it. It was life-changing for me. Their information is in the description, so definitely go check them out. If you're listening to us on Spotify, go check us out on YouTube. If you're listening to us on YouTube, definitely go check out Spotify. All episodes are up on Spotify, and I update that pretty regularly. So definitely go check us out. TikTok, Facebook, we're all on there. Go give us a like. So into today's episode. In studio with me is a brother from the program that I met here locally when I hit my first SAA meeting in the city, close to where I live. So I'm really, really pumped to have you in here, man. We've been kind of reconnecting a little bit recently, and I asked you to come on, and you're like, yeah, man, that sounds good. So we worked out a day, and here you are. And ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Derek, man. Welcome to No Lions Here.
Hi, it's a pleasure to be here. My name's Derek, and I'm a sex addict.
All right, man. Yeah, man, I'm pumped to have you on here and pumped to see kind of what the conversation looks like, what we get into. So yeah, man, you were like one of the first guys that I met.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was thinking about it as you were doing like the intro and everything, and a lot of people I've met in their first meeting come into the rooms are like really afraid and like had this forlorn look on their face, I should say. But you came in like bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and I really didn't expect that. Like I could tell it wasn't your first rodeo, and it's just always nice to immediately get to talk to somebody who has some like prior experience and really like is hungry for it. Like I could see that on you immediately. It was like you were serious about it, which is always good.
Ready to go.
So many people come in and are just like, oh, I'm gonna do this for a year, court mandated, whatever, and then like they just stop showing up. But
yeah,
I'm just glad not only that you stayed, but now that you're doing this, like you've given a platform to all this stuff. It's so cool, and it's like a real privilege to be a part of it. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, man, no problem at all. So as I like to start with all my guests, man, what brought you to recovery? What brought you to sex addiction recovery first?
So I grew up in a well-to-do Midwestern family in a small town about 2 hours north of, well, more like an hour and 10 minutes north of here, I think. But I was always kind of like the heavyset kid in a group of athletic friends and, got ridiculed a lot, had self-esteem issues, and then just like emotionally disconnected parents.
Yeah.
And I kind of got left out on my own to process all this stuff. And, I hate to say it, it's really stupid, but like societal norms being what they are for young boys at the time when I was a kid, like, boys don't cry, you don't talk to people about it, you just bury it. And that's what I did. And like one night I remember being up late, televised radio show, and weird how this is like full circle now that we're doing this, was on, and they were talking about pornography. And I didn't know what it was. And being like a curious 11-year-old with an internet connection, I Googled it. And the first thing was like the Merriam-Webster definition. And I was like, okay. And then scrolled. And then it was just like, the vastness of the internet before me, just like everything that I should not have been seeing, I was seeing. And from that first experience, it was immediately like very enticing. Like I knew there was something wrong about what I was doing, but that made it more fun and interesting. Yep. And I had no clue what I was seeing at all. Like this was all totally foreign to me, but I just primally knew that it was something that I wanted to continue to look at. So I stayed up for like probably 3 or 4 hours that night. I think it was like 11 o'clock when I started, and probably 2 or 3 in the morning.
Mm.
So immediately, like first session, like kind of doing that sex addict thing. It's like just a binge. And then my dad found out because I didn't know how to delete history because I was 11 years old, and he like sat me down and shamed me about it. So immediately we have
Ooh.
like the shame component brought into it as well. Like he went through these images, and I'm just sitting there like looking at it with my dad, and I'm just like, oh, this is the worst. And that kept me away for a while, but not too long, because before long I was back at it again. Just lots of curiosity, and kept doing it intermittently until I was about 12, and then I think I had my first sexual experience. Like I learned to masturbate through pornography, and like had an orgasm the first time watching porn, and that was like it. That was the cure all, the panacea. Like that was what always made me feel good. And I think down the road a little bit, when I was like 14 or so, was the first time I remember thinking, when I was in like real distress and home alone, like if I masturbate right now, I'm gonna feel better.
Mm.
And then it just continued to progress from there. And it got more severe both in content and behavior as time went on. When I was like 15, I started playing World of Warcraft. Shout out to the Horde forever. You alley guys suck. I haven't played in like, I don't know, 15 years, but Horde for life. Anyway, I had a computer in the basement alone because I wanted to, not be distracted while I was gaming. I was a real power gamer, like took it really seriously. And that allowed me to just isolate further and further and use pornography more. So I would just like alt tab back and forth between like, pornographic streaming websites and my game. And it just became regular routine. And then my computer got moved upstairs, and I'd be playing games in like the sunroom, and my family's like 20 feet away with no door dividing us. And I'm still like watching porn with like windows open behind me, mind you. Like if you were walking your dog down the street, you could see me watching hardcore pornography.
Wow.
And so I very much grew up like boundaryless because of that. Like there was no real hard line about anything that I was doing. And it just became a recipe for disaster. It got me through all the tough parts of my life in my teenage years. And I immediately like just took away from pornography that like women are objects, sex objects specifically. Yep. And like, of course, everyone wants to have sex with me. Like I'm God's gift to the fucking world.
Mm-hmm.
And just became like a total egocentric, like duplicitous person. Like I had this side that presented to everybody that was like kind and, listening and caring and wants to like hear your problems and stuff. But really I was just this like complete selfish coward that just threw all my problems away into holes, and really avoided reality as much as possible. So I got into a relationship with a girl, and it went fine. We graduated high school, and she went off to college, and I moved down here to go to culinary school. I would drive to the university she went to, which is like an hour and a half away, at night, down I-70, like 80 miles an hour, watching porn on my desktop, on my dashboard, on my phone, like weaving in and out of traffic. And it just like, I became so unmanageable with it so quickly. Wow. And then, I got discovered a couple times. I had like various, collections of DVDs and stuff like that. And she found them and wrote me like a really hateful note. But being good Midwesterners, we never had a face-to-face conflict over it. Yeah. It was all super passive aggressive, very weird. But it just continued to spiral more and more as I got my independence further. Like I was living on my own, and I was doing this for like 5-6 hours at a time at first. But there were days when I didn't work where it'd be like all day, like 12-14 hours of just straight up binging. And it was, just living death. Yeah. That's the only way I can describe it. Like I wasn't experiencing anything genuinely. I wasn't really giving myself to any people. I was just there, and I was living for the time when I was off work, when I could soothe all my problems with pornography. And the whole time just ratcheting up the intensity of the stuff I'm viewing, and wound up in some like pretty shameful spots. Thankfully, I never wound up on like the really bad side of the internet. Like the kid stuff was never for me. And I'm super grateful that I didn't end up in more dire straits. Like great band, horrible situation. But it really did get to a pretty shameful place for me with the content I was viewing, and really warped my perception of reality. It just continued to play out with like every woman that I met. I was trying to ratchet up the intensity of the sex I was having, and trying to figure out how I could be with multiple people at the same, not at the same time, like in the same room, but like I could be having sex with one person while I'm casually having sex with another person, so on and so forth. And it was all just never enough. And, at this time I was still like smoking a lot of weed, and I had just started drinking. So really it was just like, get out of reality as much as possible was the goal. Like I did not want to experience anything. And that went on for a while. Some other behaviors started to rear their ugly heads. Like, I started like masturbating in parks, not like around people. Like it was never around people. That was never my goal. Like, exhibitionism has never been my thing, but it's just like, it's a weird thing that happened. And now when I go on hikes, sometimes that thought comes back, and it's like, no, I don't want to do this. Like, I don't want to get fucking arrested in this place that I love. I just want to enjoy the nature out here. Let's see. There are some things that I'm probably leaving out, but I don't think it's super important to the story. The part where the rubber really met the road was I met my current partner, and we were very, very young. We've been together like 8 years consecutively, and I've known her for 10. So this was like 10 years ago. I was like 23. Yeah. And we got together very, very quickly, became infatuated with each other, and, very quickly became very physical in a heavy way. And she introduced me to, I wasn't introduced me to practicing like BDSM in person. It was something I was consuming on the internet a lot already, but I had this like really bad misconception of the dynamic of it. And there was like no care, just absolutely like, how far can we push the limits? What can we do? How bad can I hurt you? Literally. After a while of experiencing that, she called me one day. It was like, I don't want to be the person that you hurt every time you have sex with, and I don't just want to have sex every time I see you. And she broke up with me, and I had like this what I've heard called a moment of clarity, where I saw every single relationship I would ever have in the future ending the exact same way for this reason. And I was like, it's because of all the porn. Like I told her on the phone, it's like, because I watch so much porn. Like that's all it is like, I just consume all this media, and I've had my mind warped by this stuff. And I was like, I think I have a problem with it. Like, I don't know if that's a thing or not, but I feel like I have a real problem with it. And like got off the phone with her and called my dad and was just like, here's all this stuff. Here's this, like, hey, your son's struggling out here. Guess what? Like, gonna check in with you and tell you how bad my life is at this moment. And he was like, okay, that's something, but he got me a therapist. Like, he called an organization and got me hooked up with a company called Avenues. And I went there, had a handful of sessions, and I think it was like my 5th session. My therapist was like, 2 things. 1, you cannot do this on your own. Like, you are trying to fight this massive monster, and all you have is like a little pea shooter, and it's just not going to work for you. Like, you need to go find some help from people. And she told me about SAA. So I started going to that. And then I also started seeing a certified sex addiction therapist. And I walked into the room the first time at the Al-Anon Club, and that was my Monday night meeting. That's still my home group today. And that was 2015, I think. So it's been 9 years now. And I won't say that things got better immediately for me, because they didn't. I just remember coming into this room, and there are all these people like laughing and smiling and talking about the things that were like soul crushingly terrifying to me, and they had a grip on their lives, and I just couldn't understand it. I thought that like secretly everybody was doing cocaine or something. Like, everyone came here to escape their problems with other things besides sex. Right. And then or like there was going to be a hidden chamber in there, and they were going to open it, and there's like some alien god in there that like helped them out, and like, no, that never happened either. It's just like these people just became well adjusted somehow. But so I got into recovery fairly early on. I've always been quick to trust things. I've always been very gullible. Like, if you spend enough time doing it, if you tell me the sky is red, I will probably say it is, even though I know it's not. Like, I'm very thankful I never joined a cult. I was right place, right time to get into recovery, and could have wound up in much worse places if I didn't. But I kind of dragged my heels for a long time. I didn't really get into like working the steps or anything, and had a lot of like chronic relapsing. But I, made friends, talked to people, and parts of my life started to get better, and I started becoming aware of problems. And then eventually, like, my partner and I got back together. and things were fine for a while. I stayed sober, but eventually relapse happened, and then this horrible pattern of like relapse and dishonesty started happening, where
Mm.
I would start hiding it from her, and she started recognizing the signs. And that happens so many times that I literally don't have anything to say to defend my sobriety anymore. I'm just like, you know, I could be lying to you, but you know what I do every day to stay sober, and you think someone's gonna go through all of that trouble and then still act out on the side? Like, I don't have a fucking minute to scratch my ass. Like, I keep after this stuff so hard. Like, so I've wound up in a fairly morally bankrupt place early on in life. Going back to the actual question and not just telling my story anymore, like I wound up in a very morally bankrupt place in life and had no direction, no skills, and no capability to face this on my own. And the only answer that came up that made any sense to me was recovery. Like
Yeah.
religion wasn't going to work for me. I couldn't go to treatment because I couldn't afford it. And like, it was just, it was there, it was accessible, it was free, and they welcomed me.
Yeah.
And I'm so fucking grateful that I stuck with it, that I've gotten to do it. Now, like at the time of this recording, I've been sober close to 9 months,
Yeah, that's
and
awesome,
it's
man.
thank
Congratulations.
you very
Yeah,
much.
that's huge.
And it's like a real quality of sobriety that I haven't had before in life. Like I used to do things that I called my middle circle. You know, like I don't know, or you remember the circles?
Oh
Now, right?
yeah. Oh
Okay,
yeah.
cool, cool,
Oh
cool,
yeah.
cool, cool.
I talk about the circles quite a bit,
Okay,
actually. Yeah.
for those of you who are circle fans out there, I used to fool myself and say that I could look at like images of women in various states of, scantily clad clothing and, swimwear and stuff like that, and that would be okay. But I really, really would just like go down the rabbit hole of like install this app to look at all this stuff, then uninstall it, then reinstall it, then uninstall it, then reinstall it. And it just became like, I'm not going to do this today. And then I wound up doing it again. Like, like Bill W talks about, like being drunk at the bar, six drinks deep and pounding your fists on the table. Like, how did this happen to me? And it really took a long time of me just beating my head into the wall to get to the place where I had to recognize like that is the exact same as me watching porn.
Yeah.
And just a cautionary tale to anyone out there who's experiencing that kind of denial right now. Like it's not just a river in Egypt. It's a really powerful thing. And it held me back for a long time from really getting like the spiritual experience that, recover the big book talks about. But yeah, now things are a lot better. I work a 24-hour program every day, and I just tell myself like, what do I have to do to get through today? And
Yeah.
usually that's like talk to somebody else who understands what's going on in my life and what my problems are.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's really cool to be able to do it in this setting. Yeah, it's been a good journey so far. I know my life is way better because I'm in recovery. Like I know that I have a sound moral compass and I do a lot of introspection that I wouldn't do otherwise. And now my goal in life, like I don't care about professional acclaim or like a house or a car or anything like that. Like, sure, that's nice, but it's just like, how can I be the best version of myself today?
Yeah.
That's every single day is the focus, and everything else is just a bonus.
Yeah.
Like if I wake up and I'm alive and I can do that, then everything's great. Yeah, I mean that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
Really, really long-winded answer to your
No,
question.
man. Hey, that's totally fine, right? Like that's the kind of one of the beauties of the podcast is like, did I get to give you a platform?
Yeah.
Like you just told your story. There's going to be somebody out there that I can sit back, right? I can hold space for you. I can sit back and let you tell your story. Like I don't care if it would have taken 45 minutes. It's like,
oh geez, my jaw's gonna be sore if I go on that long.
Well, it's like the first time I ever had Jeff on. Like that dude just talked, and it was really good. But yeah, man, being able to give somebody else a platform, right? Because you talk about the porn aspect of it, and like I got some questions around that. Like, so because for me, in my experience, like porn was there. However, I know for me, porn was like the secondary. Like, I want to go find somebody to hook up with.
Sure.
And then like when that would fall through, all right, then I'll go to porn.
Plan B. Yeah.
And like, I don't have the experience of going on all day like porn benders. And I know some guys do. And so when you're watching it for that long, I mean, are you masturbating the whole time, or is it like, because you talked about while you were driving, like what did that do for you just having it on there?
I guess, thinking about it, now, I think I was just kind of like tying myself over. It was kind of like the rough equivalent of my brain getting fries at McDonald's to make it
Mm,
to where I'm going, like on a road trip. You know, like I
yeah.
know I was usually heading to go see my girlfriend, so I knew I was going to have a sexual experience when I got there. But I would do this thing where it's like, well, I can't like get off too quickly, so I got to like, like, get
Y-
one out. And then, like, oh,
Yep.
you need the post nut clarity too, so I can like drive effectively. But, I think like with the driving thing, okay, so I'll answer this in the order in which they were asked.
Yeah.
I didn't always masturbate while I was on those 14-hour benders, but oftentimes I would, like upwards of like 6 or 7
Wow.
times, like to the point where I'm like injuring myself.
Yeah.
Like, it got bad.
Yeah.
It got really, really rough for me there. And I'm surprised, by the grace of God, I don't have carpal tunnel. Like, I don't know how I avoided that, but somehow these, sorry, I got too excited and knocked the mic out of the way, but my wrists still work. Like, I still
Yeah.
have full range of motion, and I don't know how that is, because there are guys younger than me that have had like surgeries.
Yeah.
But I stretch. That's part of it. I think I've always just done a little bit of self-care. But yeah, with the driving thing, I think it was really just like, knowing that this was dangerous. Like, it was the thrill of it.
Ooh,
Like
yeah, the
there's,
risk.
yeah, I was never, like voyeurism and exhibitionism. Sorry, those are two hard words to say for me right now. Were never really my cup of tea,
Yeah.
but like for some reason, just doing something I knew was like, not only would it be frowned upon by like any random person, but also like putting my life in danger made it like spicier for me.
Yeah.
Like I it just became like a long-term pattern. And even still, like I have like some lingering outcomes from that. Like I don't have like a music streaming service on my phone anymore. But I will like put on a YouTube video and set it up on my dashboard, and I'll catch myself like looking at this music video. And even though I've seen it a million times, it's like I'm driving the 10 minutes I drive to work, but I'm distracted, and it's like, I gotta stop this. Like,
Yeah,
it's still
yeah.
stupid behavior. Like, I still kind of experience that powerlessness there, except that I'm not using pornography anymore. So I don't know why that is. It's just like something that's become a holdover of like a habit that scratches a certain itch in my brain.
Sure. Well, and obviously you're getting a dopamine hit
A little
from
bit,
that,
yeah,
right? Like
definitely,
we're
yeah.
getting that drip. Like that, you talked about going in and looking at like scantily clad women or swimsuits. Like
Mm-hmm.
even with that stuff, we still get hits off of that.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Like we get hits and those hits sustain us until it's like, all right, I need more.
Yeah.
And I think that your story is a really good example of the progression,
Mm-hmm.
the progressiveness of this addiction, because like it takes us deeper and deeper into things that like we need more and more, just like with alcohol or drugs.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like we need more and more and more and riskier behavior too,
Yeah.
Like I know for me, that's where the cocaine came into play. And like that dropped my walls
Oh, I'm sure.
to where I was like, I would go on 12-hour porn benders where I'd be watching porn, switch over to the hookup apps, and then switch to porn, hookup apps, porn.
Yep.
To the point where like I would injure myself. I remember one time, and like I'm not proud of this at all, but I remember one time I had a girlfriend at the time, and I didn't stay with her the night before, and of course the nights that I didn't stay, the one night a week that I didn't stay with her, that was my cocaine and porn bender, sex, whatever.
Sure.
That was that night. And I remember going to her house the next day and I had to make up. I was like, hey, I zipped my penis up in my zipper and I got cut, so I can't have sex tonight.
Oh man, you something about married yourself?
Yeah.
How'd you get the beans over the Frank?
Yeah. and obviously like that was a lie.
Yeah.
Because I was, masturbating too much. And she bought it.
Oh man.
And then of course all right, cool, there's my excuse every other time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and then we get away with these things. And then we're like, oh, I got this. Like I can do this. I can keep this up because she just believed me.
Isn't it crazy how insidious that thought is? Like, and just and in hindsight, like looking back at the fucking ridiculous lies you've told over life, like
man.
If there was just like a highlight reel of the stupid stuff I've seen, it'd be like I'd just like cringe myself to death. I don't want to be that person.
Like, oh, like I'm like, I don't like, and we got to be reminded of those things,
Yeah.
so that I don't go back. Because like, dude, I was lying about like what I was eating at lunch for it at work.
Yeah.
And it's like you just lie about things
just to keep lying.
just to keep lying.
It just becomes a game.
It literally like, and then getting caught in those little lies. And then like I have to explain myself. And then she's really thinking, what's really going on here? Where there were times where like nothing was going on, right? Like I wasn't lying about my porn usage or my drug usage, but like I was lying about what I ate for lunch. And she caught me because what I told her I ate for lunch was actually still in the fridge.
Ooh.
I didn't actually, I grabbed the wrong box one time.
Whoops.
And then like I was at work and some of the guys wanted to order out. And I was like, yeah, I want to order out. And then she was like, oh, how were the wings? And I was like, they were great. And then like a week later, we're cleaning out the fridge and she pulls the box out and it's the wings that I said that I.
Man, I bet that was a very odd interaction.
Oh, right? Dude, it was like, and it was just a lie to lie.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want to tell her the truth because I thought that she was going to get mad at me.
Yeah, definitely.
Because I didn't want to eat the leftovers.
I 100% identify with at least half of that. I love eating leftovers. I don't have to think about anything, but like the whole like lying to lie thing, I definitely understand. Like, I don't know about you, but earlier in life, I definitely went through a chameleon phase where I was just trying to make myself applicable to whoever I was around at that time. Yeah. So like I kind of found myself through that, oddly enough, but it just definitely was a period of time where I was just telling lies to try to impress people or make them interested in me or whatever. And I had to remember so much stuff. Like, oh man, it's just a pain in the ass. Like,
the tangled webs we weave.
Oh, for real.
Like, yeah, that shapeshifter mentality. Like, I have to fit in. So what can I make up that's going to help me fit in with this crowd?
Yes. Yeah. And I just remember doing that from like, you know, that started almost as early as the porn did for me. You know, like it's funny, when I was like a younger kid, I remember considering myself like really, really honest, and like people thought of me that way. And then, you know, all at one time, really, like all my character defects started like manifesting themselves and coinciding with my addictions formation. So it's just weird that like I just picked that up right there. I mean, I don't know if it's just like there's like an addict's toolkit that you get when you start forming addictive problems, but I feel like that's how it worked for me. It was just like all of a sudden I started lying about just random stuff for no reason at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think, you know, not being taught, because it sounds like with the way that you were raised and the way that I know that I was raised, like we didn't talk about things.
Yeah.
Like I wasn't accustomed to, it wasn't normal for me to talk about things.
No.
Or like, and I think that's kind of where like some of the lying comes into play is like, oh, because if I tell the truth right now, I'm going to get my butt whooped. I'm going to get my ass kicked. And I don't feel like getting spanked today. So you know what? I'm going to create this lie. And because every time I was honest, I got punished. And it's like, well, then I'm just not going to be honest.
Yeah.
And nobody taught me or gave me the tools to turn into like a well-adjusted human being. So therefore, you know, we have to go in and figure that out on our own.
Yeah. And
which is like really lonely, like a really lonely and scary place.
Yeah, absolutely. And also just like, it's amazing. I mean, it's not amazing. Of course, like you become misguided with that really quickly. Yeah. Like you find these things that work in small ways and then start exploiting them more and more, you know, like I get these behaviors like being dishonest or, you know, stealing things, and you know, give me an inch and I'll take a mile. Yes. You know, I just, it's interesting how this, well, it's not interesting. I really am saddened by how this like developed for me in that way, where I just became like so dishonest and so disconnected with reality and so far in denial. Like it got bad. It got weird and bad. It was not fun.
Yeah. Yeah, you brought up the good point there. Like, I take an inch. If you give me an inch, I'm going to take a mile, right? Because I'd get away with it as a kid. Oh, they didn't catch me that time. And, you know, yeah, I'd get caught. But, all right, well, what else am I supposed to do? Like, so then that just kind of grew and I, you know, got progressive, just like everything else.
Yeah.
You know?
So when that happened to you, did it also start that behavior of, like, squaring off it immediately afterwards? Like, oh, I got caught. Well, I'll never do it again. And then you just get better at hiding it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So many times I've done that.
Yep.
Or I've even done it to myself. Like,
really?
I promised myself we're not going to do this anymore.
Okay. Yeah.
Like, we're not going to do this anymore.
Sure.
right? Or like, hey, one last hurrah, like
Yeah, or like this Wednesday I'll be done, or this New Year I'll be done, or I'm not going to take this into my 30s, or when I start this job. The lies that we
this
tell
is
ourselves.
yeah, this and it's almost like this new circumstance.
Mm-hmm.
Like I remember one of my solutions. I laugh. It's not funny, but it's like, and that's one of the side note here is like, what I really like about this is that like we can talk about this heavy stuff in a very lighthearted way,
Sure.
right? Like we can laugh about some of this stuff
Yeah.
because recovery can be fun too.
Yeah. I mean, you have to be able to.
You have to
Like,
be able to.
if we're just doom and gloom the entire time, like
I don't want to be.
I'd still be acting
yeah.
out. Honestly, I don't know what I'd be living for right now if it wasn't like fun somewhere along the lines. Like if I didn't enjoy going to the meetings and talking to people about it, like I would probably have killed myself by now,
Seriously,
either with acting out or just directly.
yeah.
Like,
Yeah, but I remember, one of my solutions to getting clean was, all right, I'm going to move in with this girl.
yeah,
Because all of it's these, I was using all of these external things. Well, if I move in with her, I'm more accountable now.
mm-hmm.
And I'm not going to do these things because I'm not going to have the time. We're going to be together more. Like, I don't have that one night a week that I can go on a bender. Well, and then turns out, oh, wait a second. So I get off work at 3:30. She doesn't get home till 5:30. I can
2 hours to act out.
I can go get Coke and then look at porn until she gets home. I just have to be done by then, and then we're good to go.
So forgive me for my inexperience, but I only tried Coke once and I just like rubbed it on my gums and I felt like I was at the dentist. And by that time I was already in recovery and was just like, this is not for me. I'm going to fuck my whole life up if I do this. So like, can you like effectively do Coke and come down in that time, or like you still high at 5:30? Like, how's that work out?
So cocaine is very short lived, especially with the amount that I was doing. My high lasted maybe 15 minutes.
Oh shit.
So like I had to just like continue to do it and do it and do it and get more and more.
Right.
And so basically what I would do at that time period, so if I wasn't staying with her, I'd get an 8-ball.
Okay.
And an 8-ball would last me like 12 hours.
Right. And that's so for normies like me, an 8-ball is how much?
3.5 grams.
Oh, okay. Oh, so it's like weed. Cool.
Yeah, 3.5 grams.
Nice. So
3.5 grams. And that's like kind of that's normally that's like, hey, we've got 8 people, let's get an 8-ball tonight. Like,
and that would last you how long?
And that would last me personally, if I'm doing it by myself, I'm anywhere from 12 to 14 hours.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
Wow.
Just consistently like every 30 minutes doing a line.
Wow. You're plowing through this stuff then.
Dude.
Man.
Just because I wanted to keep going, right?
Sure.
And like I wanted to escape. Like, you want to talk about an escape? Cocaine is like, because all you think about is doing more cocaine.
Yeah, they say it shouldn't be called cocaine. It should just be called more.
That's
I've worked in kitchens my whole life. Like, I've worked with a lot of fucking cokeheads.
Yeah. And so at that point in time, it was, all right, let me squeeze a gram and make that last me an hour. Whereas normally a gram would last me a few hours. Wow. If I was just doing it on my own. But since I knew she was coming, from the minute I got that bag, I'm in the car dipping into the bag. I would carry a plate around with me so I could chop it up, and like while driving, my knees, I'm hitting the plate.
Hell yeah, I love this addict shit.
Dude, straight up, man.
I love the desperation stories. Like, these are crazy.
And then I'd get home, and then all right, what's my time? What's my time? Like, but then I'd get real paranoid.
Sure.
So then I'd be like looking out the window, like, is she coming?
Oh man.
God, and I'm like tweaking out, like, is she coming? Okay, she's not coming. So by the time she got there, I wouldn't necessarily say that I was like high, but I was like there and like kind of starting to come down, and the come down from coke is terrible.
Really?
Oh, it's like, because you just want more and more and more, and it's such a powerful stimulant that like you just want more, and then when you can't get more, you're just like pissed off. And you're just like, I felt weird. Like, I didn't know how to like sit still, and like, you're not hungry. You don't eat.
Sure.
So like when I would go on these benders, I just wouldn't eat. And so then she's here trying to cook dinner, and I'm trying to like force dinner down and trying not to like stare at her so that she doesn't be like, what's going on with you? Like,
are you fucked up right now? Like, yeah.
Right. And there was a couple times like women are so intuitive, man.
Yeah.
Women can just sense when you're off.
Yep.
Like, they can just sense it. And there were times where she probably sensed it, but she didn't say anything to me.
Oh, man.
And then it got to the point where, like, she'd, like, she knew what was up.
Right.
She knew, you
Yeah.
know, she knew, and she was all on board. So I tried getting clean from coke in 2020, and I was recently telling this story. Like, I wasn't ready for it. Right.
Sure.
That was back when COVID, and so I was talking to a drug counselor on the phone, and she'd be talking, I'd put the phone on mute, chop up a line, snort it, and then come
Whoa.
back onto the phone with her
Did
and be
she
like,
ever
"Oh
call
yeah,
you on it?
no,
Oh, wow.
no," and that just built up my confidence in it.
Sure.
Like, man, nobody can tell that I'm on coke.
Damn.
Nobody can tell that I'm tweaking out right now.
That's
Nobody.
so wild.
And I mean, I maintained that for 9 months or so.
Woof.
No, actually, no, I maintained that for probably like 10 months.
Damn.
And then I got caught. I had a relapse on coke,
Mm-hmm.
and I told her about it. And when I told her about it, I was cruising on the hookup apps,
Mm-hmm.
and I told her, and she was very understanding. She knew that I was trying to get clean, and she was like, "Okay, what do you need from me?" And I was like, "Well, I want to go to my mom's house and just chill out for a little bit. I wanted to go get more coke, and I wanted to go hook up with somebody."
Yep.
So I left, didn't get any more coke because my dealer didn't answer, and went to my mom's for a couple hours, came back. We got into a big fight. I woke up at like 4:00 in the morning. It was like, I'm not going to work. I'm taking a Xanax and I'm going to pass back out. And then while I was asleep, she went through my phone. At this point in time, I had gotten away with it, and she wasn't looking at my phone. So I wasn't clearing my history.
Oh, man.
None of that. And so she went through my phone and like saw like years, because this was the messaging and the websites that I was using. Like, I had those long before her and I got together. So she just went through and saw years of me messaging people trying to hook up.
Woof.
And she came home and like kicked me out right then and there.
Yeah, I can only imagine what it must have felt like to experience that, like going through somebody's phone who you like trust implicitly, and then all of a sudden, like literally the whole time they've been
man.
together, this has been happening. Like, that's just got to be
The whole time.
earth-shattering experience to go through.
You know, I talk about it now, and even earlier on in recovery, I was like, man, that was like the worst day and the best day
Sure.
of my life, because that's what I needed.
Yeah, I mean,
I needed that.
You got to squeeze lemons somehow. Even like if you have a ton of cuts on your hands, like eventually, like we learn to make lemonade out of it.
There was no other way that I was getting into recovery.
Yeah,
no other way.
Everyone...
And she was the one that was like, I think you're a sex addict. And I was like, I think you're right. I think you're right.
It's interesting how these similarities happen. You know, like I definitely, I mean, like I told you earlier, I definitely feel kinship with that moment. Like that, like, oh, I am. Whoa, like it makes sense. But I mean, yeah, the bottom comes for everybody, and that's a doozy.
Yeah,
that's a rude awakening, literally.
Again, you know, I got to look at it as like, all right, like, you know, what's become of that though, right? Like, look at my life today. Like, if I wouldn't have got discovered, we wouldn't be sitting here right now spreading the message.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, like good things came from it. Yeah. You know, hard. It was hard. It's, you know, I think as you like kind of alluded to earlier, like I don't ever tell anybody that it necessarily gets easier. It becomes more manageable.
Sure. So the thing, my Al-Anon sponsor talked to me about this last time we met, but he told me about this old school AA speaker. His name's Clancy I. If anyone's out there, look up his talks. He is a great speaker, but the main point it boils down to when he does his talk, he started this group out in LA, East LA. It's the Pacific group. It's the largest AA group. It's like 1,200 people meet every Wednesday night. Yeah, it's like a stadium. It's crazy. But he gives this talk, and he talks about how what 12 steps does for us is what our addictive tendencies do for us in the moment, but over the course of a lifetime. So we managed to learn how to get by without all the things that we became accustomed to using. And we just can intuitively handle life, and things become manageable over the long spectrum. But it is like a long, slow burn.
Yeah.
That's been my experience with recovery, at least. Like, definitely the long educational variety. I don't know if I hit on this before, but I am what is classified as a chronic relapser. Big slipper, more times than I can count. But yeah, it is something that, you know, I feel like, especially recently with the struggles that I've had in my life right now, like I'm in a really, really awful situation with my job presently. I have a solution coming down the pipe, but right now, like I know if I was in a different place with my sobriety and if I was in a different place in my life, like I would be trying to act out right now. And right now, like I, this was serendipitous, but I decided to stop drinking a while ago. And this whole time I've been just like completely sober, like sexually and chemically entirely sober. And I'm not afraid of anything. I'm not afraid to face anything. Like I'm not looking to run away. Like this fucking sucks. Like I feel terrible every day, but I don't want to hide from it.
Yeah.
You know, that's the grace of this thing. It's like at no point in time am I like, I'm gonna throw this away and run away from my problems. It's just like, I gotta grin and bear it, and it's just gonna be okay. And you know, better things will come eventually. You know, this too shall pass. Yeah. This is the part where we do like 10,000 slogans.
Yeah.
I got a whole bunch of them. Like
just look into the camera and just say them, and then we'll just clip them up, you know?
Okay, great. Yeah, yeah. One day at a time.
Keep coming back.
It works when you work it. Sucks when you don't. That's the new thing I say.
One day at a time.
Yeah, that's the new thing I say after like every time we close the meeting. It's like, works when you work it and you're worth it. And it sucks if you don't. Everyone,
it really does, though.
It does, man. Like I lived it. I mean, I say it like as a joke, but like that is my real experience. It's like until I started working this thing, until I found like I don't want to say cocktail because that seems like the wrong phrase, but like the right combination of medicine for me. Like it wasn't working for me. Like I was in recovery for 8-9 years before I really started to get a handle on like how this change actually starts to occur.
Yeah. And I want to touch on that as like, you know, you talked about chronic relapsing.
Yeah.
And like, cause I'm right there with you. Like, you know, I got into the program and thought, all right, cool. Like I'm going to work this. And like, just realizing just the emotional distress that I was in and how like acting out seemed so much safer than using, but it's also like so normalized in society for men to look at porn.
Right.
And that like, oh, you're a sex addict. Like that's not really a thing. Or like, oh, wow, must be nice. Like, well, hold on. Like it's like, hold on. I mean, I've had to have these conversations before where it's like, well, time out. Like my life literally became unmanageable because I am powerless over this thing. Mm-hmm. Like, but it's like really hard because, and this is what I tell everybody is that like drugs and alcohol, I don't ever want to go back to those. It's complete abstention, black and white. If I don't use, I'm sober. Whereas with the sexual side, like I don't ever want to give up sex. So like, I got to learn how to healthily integrate it into my life.
Yeah.
And again, it's not something that's like necessarily looked down upon.
It's tough in that way. Like I just, sorry, I'll get a little bit tangential here for a second, and then I promise we'll come back to this. Like I have a very close friend, and it's like the first relationship that I've had with another man in terms of friendship that is like developed organically and like felt good and clean the entire time. And we like just crossed the intimacy bridge with each other with that. And he came to me with like one of his problems, and I was like, look, man, here's my stuff. And he just like took it in stride, and it was nothing, no questions, nothing. He didn't seem off put by it at all. Like nothing changed about our friendship. And it was just like, cool. There are good people
when that
out
happens,
there.
Man. That's so great when that happens.
Best, especially after like having told too many people. Like I don't know if you like, I went through a boundaryless period of my life where I was just telling people.
That was early on in recovery. It was like, oh, you give me 5 minutes. Blah, here's everything.
Here's my personal history. Yep. Yeah. But yeah, I definitely. Oh shoot. I just completely lost my
you were talking to this guy, organic friendship. You guys crossed the intimacy bridge.
Right. Yeah. Previously in life, I just told so many people and like really come to regret it. Like I wish I had not told.
Because I've had it weaponized against me.
Thankfully, that hasn't happened to me so far, but I could see it happening. Like I'm never going to run for public office for that reason. Like I feel like I have enough of that addict like chatch, like that charisma. Like I'm not going to say I'm a Rizzlord or anything, but like I feel comfortable enough talking that I feel like politics could be something I could do eventually.
Sure.
But I mean, hi internet. Like I'm going to get fucked by this maybe. I thankfully that has never happened to me, but I just think that like someone could do that to me if they really wanted to. Yeah. And what I've learned from my own experience with like my own mental health problems and my own experience in recovery is like, I've sunk to some lows I didn't expect.
Yeah.
So if people have that information, they sink into a really low spot and just want to like burn some stuff down for no reason. They totally could.
Totally could.
Yeah. But I'm sorry that happened, bro. That sucks.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it taught me a lesson.
Sure.
Right? It was an experience that I needed to have. And now it's like, not everybody deserves to hear my story. Hey guys, I just want to take a minute to share something deeply personal and transformative in my journey of recovery. I've been where you might be right now, struggling with the weight of addiction and feeling lost. But there's a place that offered me a new beginning, a place I truly believe in. It's called Begin Again Institute. At Begin Again, they understand the deep-rooted trauma behind addiction. Their 14-day intensive program for men tackles the neurobiological aspects of addiction head on. It's not just about breaking a habit. It's about understanding and healing the underlying trauma that formed it in the first place. And for those who have been impacted by betrayal, Begin Again extends care to partners of addicts too. Their partner support program is offered at no additional cost to the family and runs alongside the men's intensive. This program helps participants gain an understanding of the trauma they've experienced and sets them on their own path to healing. If you or someone you love are grappling with sexual addiction, pornography addiction, or intimacy issues, Begin Again Institute can be that pivotal step towards recovery and a new lease on life. Remember, you can't go back and change the past, but it's never too late to begin again. To learn more about their life-changing program, visit beginagaininstitute.com or call 720-776-9076 to reserve your spot in the next 2-week intensive. I promise, it'll be the best call that you ever make for yourself. Stay strong, keep fighting, and keep tuning in to No Lions Here for more conversations about recovery, resilience, and hope. Right, like, my story's out on the internet, right? I haven't gone into like specific details around certain things, around some of the acting out, like, and maybe one day I will, because I do want to be a voice for people, like, for people that are too afraid to speak up. And like, if I can share a detail of my story that resonates to somebody that has somebody then question them, like, dude, that's like the gift of the program, right?
100%.
But there is, some things in day-to-day stuff, some of the things in detail. It's like, but I also realize too, like, cause I'm dating right now.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I'm really trying to learn how to mindfully share myself. And hey, like, just because we're talking doesn't mean that you are deserving of my full story.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that, like, I need to protect that part of me.
Yeah, it is a precious part, like, it's great to have the vulnerability and courage to, like, the courage to have vulnerability, rather, to be able to, like, give that away to somebody. But, like, knowing when it's appropriate to do that is so tough.
So, like
no one gives you an instruction manual for that. Like, any of this stuff, really. Like,
no.
God, if there's just like how to Derek, I would love that. If someone has that out there, you can find me somehow. I would
email
love
nolionshere@gmail.com.
Thank you.
nolionshere@gmail.com.
Shameless plug. Loved it.
And I'll forward it to him.
Thank you in advance, you wonderful people out there. Yeah, man, it's so hard to know when it's appropriate to do that. Like, I've one of the things that I've been so afraid of, like, in losing my relationship, which has been like a really real possibility every time I've had a relapse and like dishonesty cycle happen, is how the hell am I going to go date people? Like, what is my life as a recovering person going to look like on a dating app, or like trying to meet people? Like, it's just going to be such a shit show to like get comfortable and then be like, okay, so I can't do Monday nights, I can't do Thursday nights. And they'll be like, why? I'll be like, it's a support group. What do you mean? Like, we all read the same book, if you know what I'm saying. Like, I don't know how I would traverse that at all. So I can only imagine like what you're going through and trying to navigate this whole thing. And my hat's off to you in attempting to do it.
Yeah.
But last time we spoke, you were talking about how that's like become a tool for you. I mean, do you want to elaborate a little bit more on like how that's impacting your recovery?
Absolutely, man. So in SCA, right, the Sexual Compulsives Anonymous, those are the meetings that I hit, and like, dating's a tool.
Yeah.
Right? And when I got into recovery, I was like, what? Like, and how you're supposed to date like multiple people at a time. Now, in my fresh newcomer brain, it was like,
so we're swingers now?
Right. So like, so I'm sleeping, because dating equals sleeping with each other.
Of course.
And it's like, no, I'm dating with an intention to get to know somebody and share myself. I'm not getting physical with those people. And so realizing that, like, I crave that connection. So, okay. And I'm trying to get that connection through acting out. And it's like, that's not going well. So what do I need to do? I need to actually go out and connect with people, and the females. I need to go out and connect with them and put myself out there and realize like, oh wow, like I really do have a lot to offer. It's built a lot of confidence in me,
Sure.
energetically, being like, this is like who I am. Like I've found that I've really been able to be myself, and that like I don't have a mask on. Like I'm not showing up as the person I think you want me to be. Also, too, being almost 60 days sober, it's like, thank you. I'm not acting out, right? Like I'm not having these conversations or going on these dates and then going home and acting out. So like there's no shame there.
Great.
And it's like, oh wow. But then like getting that, realizing that there's people out there that fit my list of like, hey, these are my non-negotiables. These are the things that I'm looking for in a partner. Like being so afraid that like I'm not going to find that, to now, and I don't know, and I think my higher power is definitely involved in all of this, right?
Sure.
Like my higher power is involved, but like getting to a spot where like, because I always thought that like, oh, I'm never going to be able to find somebody that fits these qualities. And they're not like, it's like, hey, do you believe in, are you okay with spirituality? Do you have a network? Or do you have an, like, do you have an idea or have done some work or currently working around your own issues? Do you know what you bring to the table, the good, the bad, and everything in between? And it's like, I'm actually meeting people that check those boxes.
Whoa.
And it's like, whoa, okay. So, all right, there's people out there that are like this. And so like, I found that I've had some really good connections, and like, I had one connection recently that I was really into. I was like, this is great. And then she kind of had to step back, and I stayed sober. And it was like, wow, so I can stay sober. Also, too, I think I'm just kind of in this part of my recovery in my life where it's like, I'm actually kind of like content with where I'm at.
Yeah. First of all, big milestone there, and like being able to handle like being able to effectively handle like, I don't want to say rejection because that seems too harsh, but like just something not working out, like not going your way. And like oftentimes I feel like I know that in my experience when it happened with a woman, like that was all the more painful and all the more like going to send me into a spiral about like my self-confidence and self-image and XYZ thing that's going to make me feel bad and want to act out. So
Yeah.
like being able to get through that, like I think that's huge, man.
That's
awesome.
For me, rejection, I take rejection personally.
Oh yeah.
Like
Oh
it's
yeah.
personal.
Oh yeah.
And my therapist told me this one time. She was like, Alex, like, what if it just wasn't God's plan? She was like, can you view it like that? And I was like, also too, like, don't put that all on you, Alex. Like, you don't know these people well enough to know what they have going on in their life. Yeah. They may not be ready, right? Like,
sure.
So it's not you, it's not me at all. And it's taught me how to like give other people compassion, grace and compassion.
That is one of the hardest things about recovery.
Yeah.
Like it's so tough just giving, well, I mean, I won't say regular people because there are tons of unhealthy people in my life who like I have to be patient with, and I have to remember like they're sick, they don't know what they're doing, they're literally out here doing what they think is right and trying their best, and boy, that's tough. It's so hard.
It's so tough. And I think what really helped me break that was realizing the bitterness and resentment that I was holding on to towards my childhood and my mom.
Ooh. Yeah.
And I had kind of hit a shift in perspective earlier this year around that like really kind of broke some shit up inside of me that was blocking all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And that like really just kind of like opened me up as a person.
Okay.
And like allowing other people to be themselves.
That's huge, but I'm interested in that dynamic like specifically because before, we had a period of like being in communication a lot more previously when you got into recovery.
Yeah.
And I was like helping you out and stuff. And I think like around that time, if I remember correctly, you were having a lot of issues with your mom specifically. Like that was a big part of what was going on in your life. That was a stressor. And like, what, do you mind if I ask like what exactly,
Please.
Like what was that perspective change that allowed you to get through that? Like, what was the exact thing that put you in that headspace where you could just accept her and be like, this is who she is?
Yeah. So, one, I got on anxiety medication earlier this year.
Oh, that's huge.
Dude, that's
so huge.
And like I got into recovery. Like I know that I've always been anxious. I've always had I'm fear driven in everything, right?
Yeah.
Like no matter what I do, but I'll never show it.
Right.
right? Be a man, be
Poker face at
you
all
know.
times.
And so finally, it actually came up because I thought that I had ADHD.
Hmm.
And I had a therapist on, and we were talking about that, and some of the things he was saying, I was like, oh, okay, I'm gonna look into this. And I saw a psychiatrist, and he was like, man, he's like, you might have it, but I really think that your problem is anxiety. And I was like, I don't disagree with you at all. He was like, let's try this anxiety medication, and the anxiety medication has cut my anxiety by about 60%.
Whoa, man.
And so that cleared my mind, right? That kind of opened me up a little bit. And I remember one night, this was really interesting. I was supposed, it was a Friday night. I was supposed to play hockey that night. I play a lot of hockey, right? So
Ice
I was
or roller? Okay, cool.
roller. State Wars, baby. State Wars roller hockey. Let's go. So I was supposed to play hockey that night. Well, I think that was back. We had like a bad storm, like a bad snowstorm earlier this year.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah.
And so hockey got canceled. So I was like, dang, man, like, all right, hockey got canceled. So I went home and asked my mom, because I live with her, and I was like, hey, do you want to get Mexican tonight? She was like, yeah, let's do that. I was like, okay, cool. We're just going to have a nice Friday night in, going to eat some Mexican, probably go chill out and just go to bed. Well, we're eating Mexican, and her and I start talking. Her and I just kind of go back and forth, and I felt really present. Normally, when me and my mom start talking, I want to get out.
Sure.
I want to get away, right? And she made a couple very distinct points in that conversation where she was like, Alex, you don't know me.
Whoa.
And I was like, you're right. I don't. I'm a carbon copy of my dad. I don't have to go have a long conversation with my dad to understand why he did some of the things that he did. I am him.
Right.
Me and my mom, complete opposites. So she like that, like knocked me. I was like, oh my God, you're so right. Like I never took the time to get to know her. I just assumed, I just projected, I wanted her to be a certain way, and she would never live up to that. And that's what I realized. And then she told me at one point in time, she was like, Alex, when I had all the boys, cause I'm the second oldest of 5 boys.
Whoa.
And, my dad was not there for her. She was like, Alex, I was just trying to survive.
Yeah.
And I was like, I know that feeling.
Mm-hmm.
I can relate to that feeling.
Yeah.
And so like having that conversation with her and realizing that like the spiritual abuse that I come across in my childhood, like that was not forced on me by my parents. My parents were just as much victims in the church as I was. They didn't know any better.
Yeah.
They were doing what they thought they were supposed to do. And so like that conversation, those two little things, like they're not little, but those two things just like really changed my perspective around my childhood and my mom specifically.
Wow. That's powerful, man. I mean, just like, I know I said it earlier, we're all just out here trying to do what we think is right, and we don't have clear instruction on what exactly that is. That's good intentions pave the road to hell. Like that's how a lot of things have gone awry in my own life. Like my best thinking got me here.
Yeah.
Like if I was actually good at thinking, I wouldn't be sitting in this room talking to you right now.
Yeah. 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 So that so was the medicine, and then also that conversation with her, and it just like that, like just really opened me up. Like I was holding on to I didn't realize until that point how much resentment and bitterness I was holding on to around her in my childhood.
That is some black belt level Al-Anon stuff right there, man. That is what we refer to as like doing it. Like that is looking at your part and then just accepting other people for who they are and like detaching with love. That's so much of like what I hear in the Al-Anon meetings.
And also too, I think like I was so fixated on the trauma that happened to me as a child that I didn't see the good things. Like my parents really tried. They really tried to give me all of these great, wonderful experiences. Like the intention was there. The impact just was different than what they thought it was going to be. But, and I realized that in like a group therapy, we were going through like a workbook, and it was like, hey, what are some of the good things from your childhood? Which I was so fixated on the trauma and blaming and like, you need to repent. And well, hold on, Alex, like there were good things in your childhood. There were experiences that I got that were once in a lifetime things.
Yeah.
And it's like to be able to see it like that was like, okay, all right.
It's really amazing how quickly it's easy to start looking at all the negative things and lose sight of the positive things. Like,
Yeah.
oftentimes I have to remind myself that like I'm not a shitbag and that I have redeeming qualities. The list of things surprises me sometimes, and I do that with all kinds of things, like other people, situations, jobs in the past. Like, even right now, like I'm trying to get out of the line of work that I'm in, and I have kind of been like, oh, I've done this for 12 years and really have nothing to show about it. Like I'm broke. All these other people have like houses and cars and stuff, and like I still rent, and like we have to split my car essentially. Like it's, but I look back at like everything that I've learned and all the things that I can do now that not a lot of people in the world can do, and it's just like, okay, so it's not, it's a lot more intrinsic value than like that real tangible stuff, but that's okay.
Yeah.
I know personally I really like to fixate on the negative, and it sounds like that was something that was holding you back for a little bit.
And I think that it's so easy too, right? It's that 99 to 1 syndrome. Like I got 99 great things going on in my life, but one thing happened to me today. I got cut off. And so I'm immediately just going to fixate on that one thing. And then that's the beauty of the program is we have others around us that can be like, hey man, remember all these other good things you got going on? Okay. All right. Yeah. It's
thank God for the other people.
Seriously though, man, like thank God.
Yeah.
Thank God that I have people that I trust that one will call me out on my bullshit in a loving way.
Absolutely.
And two, even just because there's sometimes where like I just need to talk out loud to somebody and I'll work myself out of whatever I was, because I'll hear myself say it out loud and I'm like, oh wow, that
sounds crazy.
Wow, that's not the right way of thinking right there at all. Okay, yep, I'm gonna change that. The other person sometimes doesn't even have to say anything to me.
It's amazing like what externalization does for you in that regard. Like I really like, there's this podcast about stoicism that I listen to all the time, and he always hammers home like journal, and talks about it's a quote from like Anne Frank. The page is infinitely more patient than people are. And just like being able to put that out there, like put my craziness on a piece of paper and like dedicate the time to writing, because I like care about my penmanship. I have mild OCD, and like painstakingly write things like legibly, and taking the time to do that really helps me realize like, oh, I see the selfishness in this now. Like, oh, yeah. I see how this is crazy. I see my character defects in action. But like externalizing it vocally is just as powerful. And having someone there who's like willing to tell you the hard truth and call you on your shit is so invaluable. Like that you can't have enough of that. Like that's just, there are all too frequently too few of those people, and the ones you have, hold the hell on to.
Yeah.
Thank you, good people out there.
Seriously. And like, and it took a while to build those relationships to a point where like I could fully accept that and know that like, hey, these people love me, and that's why they're giving me this advice. I don't like hearing it. I'm like, God dang it. Okay. Like, all right, you're right. But then I always come back to like, wow, I'm really grateful for that conversation. I'm not always graceful at hearing it.
Yeah, all too often I think we are sensitive people, and that really, myself definitely, I am a sensitive person, and taking criticism is not my strong suit. But I mean, like hearing the hard truth, like when my sponsor lays into me, like not lays into me, but like will give me like the sort of tough love that I need. Like those are the moments that I'm really grateful for.
Yeah,
I said something about like I don't remember. I was talking to him about, like, I want to become an electrician. That's what I want to do with my life. Like, I just want to have a comfortable life where I can make a decent living and have benefits and work a good schedule. And I have put very little work into it so far, and trying to get out of my present work situation. And I called him and checked in. And he's like, did you do anything about that this weekend or yesterday? And I was like, well, I was kind of resting yesterday. I was like, oh, that's bullshit. Whoa. All right. Thanks, Tom. Yeah, I guess it was. I could have totally done something, but I just it was easier to play video games. But I need that every now and again, because it's easy to lose focus when you're in distress, and I am that like squirrel's ADD guy. Like I see a dog and I am gone. Like I'm miles away. Thankfully, it's not like I see an ass and I'm miles away anymore.
That's a good point.
Yeah, no, thankfully it's much more wholesome now. Like I'm in it for the dogs. I do not care about what you're wearing. Show me your dog. Let me pet that dog, please.
That's a really good point, man. Like just like the objective, like something like that, even just the objectification. Like I found that like that was like fairly early on, like my objectification, like my eyes will still go there, but there's no thoughts behind it.
Sure.
And then I'm like, okay, yeah, look away.
Yeah. Total mindlessness.
Like, oh yeah, okay.
Yeah. And, thankfully over time, like my experience is that a lot of that has just become like background noise. It's like, oh, there's someone there, like, good for them, whatever. Like,
I think it was actually you. I think you actually shared with me early on in recovery, like that I am allowed to acknowledge beauty.
100%.
I'm like I'm 99.9% sure that this was you, and this is still something that sticks to me to this day, and that I share with guys too. Is like, hey,
Oh, cool.
like you are allowed. If you see somebody attractive, like you are allowed to acknowledge that. But if you take it any further, that's where you got to watch. Like I'm totally allowed to be like, oh, wow, I find that person attractive. And then you know what? We're going to leave it there and then we're going to look away.
Yeah.
Like I don't need to stare or keep looking. But like I am allowed to acknowledge beauty.
Yeah. Like I think so much of this program has to do with learning how to reintegrate things into our life.
Yeah.
Like we're kind of like overeaters in the way that we have to like learn to walk with our tiger outside of the cage. I never wanted to become a eunuch. I never wanted to become asexual. I never wanted to like withdraw myself from any part of my being that has, like the biological factors or like, the parts of myself that really enjoy being sexual and, enjoying sexual things. Like I never wanted to get away from any of that. I just wanted it to not be so unmanageable and shameful and painful. And I think that's part of it. It's just like reframing it in a way that like, I see beauty in this person and that's great, but I also like just see beauty in the clouds. Like, oh wow, like I'm sure if we were to walk outside right now, it's probably about sunsetish, right? Like what time is it?
Probably right around there.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's about that time. It's 8:45. So we'd probably see some like absolutely gorgeous colors. But it's like the same thing to me now. It's just like beauty's everywhere. And I kind of hate when I hear other people say this sort of thing, but I find it to be true. Like God's in everything too. Like that's the thing. It's like, it's just how I catch myself phrasing it and thinking about it that matters the most. Like I don't want to make anyone uncomfortable. First and foremost, I don't want to make anyone uncomfortable by like looking at them for an extended period of time. Like I've felt uncomfortable before, like not objectified because like, straight white dude doesn't happen to me a lot, but, I know I've made people uncomfortable and I feel a lot of shame surrounding that. But, it's also just like the mental reframe of just like being able to suss out, like, is my motivation to escape by looking at this person? Or can I just say like, yeah, they're attractive. Good for them. They look like they work out. That takes dedication. Good for them. But it's tough. It's tough. It's a weird line to walk, and for a while it wasn't something I was very good at.
Yeah. All this stuff is practice.
Yeah,
and it's never perfect.
Yeah,
it's never perfect because there are days where some days I look too long.
Sure.
Okay, but I don't need to shame right. Like I don't need to shame myself today.
Yeah.
Right. It's not so black and white. And again, I love living in that black and white area.
Oh yeah,
I love it.
Easiest. There's only two options. It makes the most sense. It is or it isn't. There's no gray area. There's no understanding.
No, it's either this or that.
Think about it. It just is. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I fall into that. But now it's like, no, gray area, man. Like, all right, cool. Like,
all gray.
Did you approach them? Did you give into the fantasy? Did you go home and Like, yeah. No, I didn't do any of those things. Like, yeah, maybe I looked a couple seconds too longer than I should have. But did you give into those thoughts? No. Cool. Good.
Yeah.
All right. Learn from this.
100%. And it could be a lot worse. Like, having been in the rooms for so long, like I've heard some things like, guys following people around aisles in grocery stores because they find that person attractive. Or like I sponsored a guy for a little bit who got arrested because he was taking pictures of people without their consent.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So like there's a lot larger and steeper slope of things that could be happening there. So like, it's a win. As long as you're not doing anything you talked about or like those guys, you're doing fine.
It's like, yeah, okay. Like, yeah, you're right. Like I'm doing all right. I'm allowed to acknowledge beauty. And again, I'm not going to go up and I'm not going to be inappropriate with anybody. Like I know that. So it's like, all right, like, dude, you're fine, man. Like you're a human being too. At the end of the day, too, is like, because I think I'm a robot. Sometimes I think that I'm a robot. Again, black and white.
Right.
I am a robot. I should be able to do everything perfectly. Me moop, me moop. And I'm not. I'm a human being
Yeah.
doing the best that I can.
And sometimes that looks like mistakes, and sometimes it's not living up to your own expectations for yourself.
Yeah.
More often than not, that's the case for me. You know how many times I tell myself in the morning I'm going to get up and work out? You know how many times I worked out in the last 3 weeks? Once. But I like to tell myself, like, oh, I feel better. I know I feel better when I do it, but it just, I fall short of my own expectations. And that's just part of being human. Like, it's just the self-acceptance there. I think that's a huge piece.
And in recovery, just being able to have grace for myself.
Yeah.
And say, hey, man, all right, that's okay. Like, it's all good.
I don't know about you, but I love beating up on myself. Like, I am my own biggest critic. Yeah. Like, spite is everything that has fueled me my entire life, and I don't hate anyone more than me. Like, that has been my greatest catalyst my entire life. And, in therapy regularly, like, my therapist will ask me, what are some major themes or topics for today? And like 4 out of 5 times it'll be like, I have to stop being a jerk to myself. I got to rephrase my self-talk and watch my mental chatter. And I'm tired of saying it out loud, but it's true every single time.
Yeah.
Like I'm so good at that. And just being able to accept that perfection is not on the table, and I'm just out here doing what I can today, and it's going to be what it's going to be, and I'm going to be okay.
Yeah. And it's so weird, because like I know how to operate in that zone when I'm beating up on myself, and then I become the victim. All right, well, I know I don't necessarily like being there, but it's familiar and I'm comfortable because it can justify my actions.
Yeah. And
I know how to operate, and I can justify every bad decision when I'm in that place, because that's just where I've always been, up until recovery. And it's like, yeah, I get it. Like, so, and no one's ever, and I tell this to people all the time, like, no one's ever going to be as hard on me as I am on myself. You can try.
The real bitch about that is when someone figures out how to exploit that.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's happened to you, but I'm in a situation right now where somebody just knows how to press that button the right way.
Ooh.
And it's just sends me spiraling.
That's gotta be tough, man. I'm sorry you got to deal with that.
Toxic workplace, it's okay.
I get that.
This too shall pass.
Clipped.
Isolate that audio, thank you.
AI, do you think?
God. So crazy.
Man. I'd love to man, it's so funny, like, these, anytime I come in here with a guest, like, I still get a little nervous. Sure. And it's like, oh, we're gonna, after 15 minutes, we're both just gonna look at each other and be like, well, what do we talk about now? And it's like, I look over and it's like we're an hour and 11 minutes in. Yeah. And it's like we've just been nonstop talking. Oh, yeah. And I'm still so surprised, even though I've done this so many times. It's like, I'm still so surprised.
It's so strange, like, how natural it feels too. Like, yeah. I have definitely had like long conversations on the phone, but I don't know if it's just like, we were talking about this before we started recording, like how official the headphones and the microphone feels. Yeah. If that's just like the right sauce to keep it going or what. But I mean, it's amazing. Like, I had the same thought. Like, what happens if we run out of stuff to say after 30 minutes? Yeah, I checked my phone. I was like, God, it's later than I thought.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's amazing how freely this just comes.
And it's just, again, like, it's just a conversation, man. Yeah. And like, we're laughing, and it's like we're talking about deep stuff and heavy stuff, but yet there's a lightheartedness to it. Mm-hmm. It's a conversation. It's back and forth. Like,
yeah, I mean, I didn't expect to, I knew this was going to be interesting, but I didn't expect to have such a good time doing it. Like, this is definitely, like, this is fun in a way that I didn't expect it to be.
Heck yeah, man. Yeah. I'm really glad I can give you that experience, man. Like,
great first podcast experience.
Let's go, man.
Long time listener, first time talker.
Yeah. I'd love to, because you've thrown this out a couple times, but Al-Anon.
Yeah.
I'd love to talk a little bit about Al-Anon and your experience with that. That's something that I've heard about. I know people that go to those meetings. You got ACA, Al-Anon. Al-Anon is what's Al-Anon stand for?
It's literally just like an inversion of Alcoholics Anonymous. Yeah. So, Bill W.'s wife, Lois, actually started the first Al-Anon meeting.
Okay.
And it was just explicitly for like people affected by alcoholics in their life. So they have the same symbol. It's basically the same name. It's still AA. They still use AA's 12 steps. They just changed it to Al-Anon so that it could be distinctly like the opposite of just learning how to deal with other people's alcoholism and focus on your own part in that.
Yeah.
Like, so the fourth step in the big book, how they have 3 columns.
Yeah.
And there's the 4th column, which is my part.
Yeah.
That's Al-Anon. That is the greatest distillation of Al-Anon that I can think of, is like you take the focus off of like the addicts or alcoholics or whatever you have in your life, the normal people who act badly, and you put the focus back on like your own personal growth and how you can change in that situation. That's the greatest distillation of like Al-Anon that I can give.
Okay. And so how has that like affected your recovery how has that affected your sexual addiction recovery?
Sure. So a big part of my influence to act out has been resentment.
Mm.
Like I always have someone I have a problem with, and I just fixate. I'm just like, fuck that guy. Like, you know, just in my head, the committee gets together and starts talking, and all of this chatter starts happening about how that person sucks and examining all their character defects. And then eventually it ends up being like passive aggression, then full on aggression. And then eventually like my life's unbearable and I'm acting out. And what Al-Anon has done for me has been made me step back and look at my part in every situation so that I can say like, okay, here's what I'm contributing. This is what I can control. And this is what I have to do about it. And then I have to accept the rest, you know, like all of that other stuff. It's like the big book talks about how I think it's in more about alcoholism, how you wouldn't be mad at someone who has cancer because it is a disease. That's, you know, that's the rest of the world. Like all these people that are acting in defective ways are sick, and we just have to be able to acknowledge that. And that's way easier said than done. My experience with Al-Anon so far, like I'm only a year in. I started last August, and I just started working the steps with a sponsor. Is that it's a real slow burn, and some days I've got it, and some days I don't. You know, like some days I get the bear, some day the bear gets me still. And I have noticed real progress, like real change, where I like think about what people in the meetings say while I'm having an interaction with somebody, and I'm able to hold my tongue and just act better and be better as a person and not live in my character defects as much. Like it's like Al-Anon on the whole, I think is really a hardcore 6th and 7th step.
Okay.
That's what I think it's coming down to for me, is just like recognizing what I can do to be different.
Yeah.
And being ready to be able to do that.
Yeah.
There's a big spiritual component to it, but really like it is like a program of action for overcoming the worst parts of your personality and your character defects. I don't know. It's also just great. Like the meeting I go to is, you should come check it out sometime. It's awesome. It's in Kirkwood, so it's a little bit of a haul for you, but it's Thursday nights.
I'll go anywhere for my health, man. You know what I'm saying?
It's a great meeting, dude. It's sometimes we have like 50 people.
Wow.
Like it's massive. It's a bunch of old timers, a lot of double winners. So a lot of dudes in AA who have been sober for like 40 years. And there's just so much like joy and camaraderie and familiarity, and like everyone's talking shit on everybody in like a really fun way. Like it never feels hurtful. Everything's always fun and playful, and there's just so much good stuff going on there, like so much wisdom coming out of these people. Like I really really love that Thursday night meeting. That's my Al-Anon home group, and it's the best. That's without awesome. Them I feel like getting into Al-Anon really impacted my sexual sobriety. Yeah. Like that really, I was done beating my head into the wall. Like I feel like I had finally hit the real bottom where it was just like I can't do this anymore. Like I broke through my denialism, but the Al-Anon really reinforced the things that I needed to stay sober. Like, you know, another meeting that I can go to every week. For a long time, I was just going to one meeting a week in person, and then like some on Zoom. And no disrespect to anyone who works recovery online, like it's a totally viable path. But for me, it was not. Like I need to be here. I need to see your face. I need to read your body language. Like sometimes I need to smell you. I don't know. Like there's just something about being in person with somebody that's that much more impactful for me. And I really just think like carving up more time and going to this meeting and being new again, you know, like just having that beginner's mindset again of just like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing, but these guys do. So I'm going to stick around and hear what they have to say. That really, really positively impacted my recovery. I think there's so many things I've heard, like you'll see many people, and I didn't see this in S meetings, where like people would have notebooks out the entire time and just be taking notes the entire time. Like there's at least 7 or 8 people out of like the 40 that are usually in that meeting that are constantly taking notes. And, you know, it's just powerful stuff, man.
Yeah. Would you say that it helped that you had some kind of, you know, meeting, experience under your belt going into that? Do you think that like really helped the experience for you?
Yeah, I think, you know, having been in recovery for so long in the S program, it definitely helped me get to it. It was something I didn't think that I needed, and I almost like scoffed at the idea when my sponsor put it forward to me. But you know, being able to recognize my powerlessness in one area allowed me to open up my eyes to what else I was powerless over, which is everything, in the world, like people, places, events, corporations, ideas. I can't do anything about all that. Yeah. And I just like, I wouldn't, there was a lot of things going on in my life where I think it was like once again, like the perfect time for me to get into something like that, like reading a lot about stoicism and, keeping the empire and the mind in the right place. I find a lot of that like dovetails really nicely with Al-Anon. So I do think that my prior recovery experience did help, but also I was just in the right place to pick something else up at that time. I think I needed something else, really.
That I just love that whole aspect of like the whole perspective of like owning my part in things and like what's my part in things. And like earlier on, because I think that as human beings just out in the world blind, we love putting the blame on other people.
Yeah,
I know I did.
Oh, it's so easy.
It was never my fault.
No,
right? Like I'm the victim. Like I'm the victim here. And again, like I talked about earlier, that victim mentality fuels my addiction, right? Because it justifies all of my behaviors. I got wrong today. And so being able to take a look at my part in things, like it's now something that like comes, it doesn't necessarily, I'm not perfect at it, but there's times where like, that's like the first thing that pops up in a situation is like, all right, what's my part in this? Damn it. Yep. I had a part to play in that. Okay.
Yep.
All right. Like, yep. I can see that. And I had this experience with my mom over 4th of July. We were both in the kitchen and we were preparing food and like tensions were a little high and she kind of like started popping off a little bit. And then I popped off back at her and I was like, I felt it coming on. And I was like, I'm about to just shut down. And I was like, all right, let me remove myself from this situation. Let me go make a phone call. Made the phone call, had a plan. Okay, I'm going to go back. I'm going to make my amends. And then I'm going to go for a run because that's going to help me work through out of this. And I went down. I said, hey, Mom, I just want to apologize for like my part in that. Like I got a little heated and I responded in the way that I shouldn't have. And she goes, yeah, I was running my mouth. And I was like so taken back by that and like respected the shit out of that too. Like, wow. Like, and that really helped me like and I was like, oh, all right. Like, thank you for that. Like, thank you for owning your part. And like, and it was like, I don't know. It was really cool. It was like a really cool experience.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's another slogan. It's let it begin with me, where, a way I think about it is, I'm sure you've heard this in another place, but like, you have to be the change you want to see in the world. So like, if you lead by example like that, like your side of the street is clean. So like you've done your job for your own mental health and sobriety. Great. But B, like leading by example and someone else taking up the torch. That's awesome. That's so cool. Like it's great when someone responds in kind like that. I'm so happy that, you got to see that happen, play out like that.
And then it was like, and then realizing too, like, and this was another big thing, like I have a choice. Like, I have a choice to either sit in this resentment,
drink the poison,
or I have a choice to say, no, I'm not going to let that affect me. I'm going to have a positive rest of my day.
Yeah. Take the antidote.
And it's like, you're in, like, I got the choice here. Right. And I'm just so happy that I'm in that place today that I can see that. And that I can make that choice and that I can take ownership of my actions. And that helps me out.
Hell totally. Yeah, man. That's huge. Just being able to do that. It's just like massive. Do you know how many normal people can't do that?
Oh yeah.
How many people who just like go their whole lives without trying to do that at all?
Yeah.
Shockingly large number.
Yeah.
World's full of that.
And it's just like, I don't know, and it's taking me time.
Yeah. It's not a reflexive thing for me. Like it's so much easier to just like fire back. Like, I don't even aim. I just fire.
Fire back or shut down.
Yeah.
Right. Those are my two speeds.
Yep.
Black and white. It's one or the other. This is what I do. Whereas now it's like, all right, I can live in that gray area.
Yeah.
Even though sometimes I want pop off. Like you were talking about earlier, like sometimes I want pop off. I wish that sometimes I was having this conversation last night with somebody, like, sometimes I wish I didn't have the awareness that I had so that I could pop off and like, and justify it.
Like
But like,
regretting your recovery all of a sudden. Like, why am I on this path?
never. But like there's no mystery in the things that I do now.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And like, sometimes I would love to get back to that mystery of like, well, I don't know why I'm doing this.
Yeah.
I don't wish that. Right.
Sure.
I don't wish that. But there are times where I'm like, God dang it, I'm too aware.
I mean, that guy's always in there, like that part of our brain is always there. Like we just learn to live with it.
Yeah.
And my therapist and I talk about like purity of thought, like being an impossible thing. Like, I have crazy thoughts all the time. Like I am constantly motherfucking people in my brain because that's how I get my self-esteem, is like tearing other people down in my head. And it's terrible. I don't like it, but it's, like I can't expect myself to just give up something I've been doing my whole life.
Yeah.
Yeah. God, I was going to say something else about that. Oh, that's the other thing about it is just like, my sponsor always tells me, like, is this the person you want to be? Like, is this why you go to all those meetings? Is this why you pay for therapy? Is this why you do all this work on yourself and you journal and you pray and you connect with your higher power? Is this why you do that? To be that person? No. It's not why you do all this.
No.
And every time he says it, it's just like, I know.
Yeah.
Shut up, Mike. I know.
All right.
Both of my sponsors are just like, they're not afraid to lean in, and they're both like old school big book thumpers, and I'm super grateful for their mentality like that.
Yeah.
Like they're there to step in with a tough love when I need it.
Yeah. And we need that, man.
100%.
We need that. But again, we've spent the time to build those relationships to know, like, all right, they're coming from a good place.
Yeah.
And I know how I need it too.
Sure. Related but not related question. This is something that I've kind of thought about through my time in recovery, but because my emotional relationship with my father was not very intimate, like I didn't have, like, we're friends and we do stuff together and we hang out, but like very surface level.
Yeah.
And I feel like I've spent my life kind of trying to cultivate father figures and people to like look up to, and especially in recovery, like I've been doing that. And you said like, your father was kind of absent and wasn't around or there and available. Do you feel like you felt something similar where you've been kind of like looking for people to be almost father figures in recovery, or like have you gotten into like a manipulative relationship because you thought someone was going to be like an older brother or father figure, that sort of thing?
I think early on, like, because I had a male therapist at first.
Sure.
And like he'd give me homework.
Mm-hmm.
And like there'd be times where like I wouldn't do the homework. And I'm like, how do I figure out a way to not tell him I didn't, like, how do I like basically leave out that I didn't do the homework?
Right.
Because he's just going to yell at me. I didn't do it right. I didn't do it perfectly. So like, how do I skirt around that? Whereas like, I will say though, on a different perspective, is because my dad was there physically, just mentally he wasn't there.
Sure.
And like we got to a certain age and like I realized like part of my dad's story is sexual abuse in his life growing up.
Uh-huh.
And like that like really stunted him.
Mm-hmm.
And mentally and emotionally.
Stop. This is so weird. Like exact same thing with my dad.
Like, and so he was great with us when we were like kids and like younger, but then we hit a certain age and he didn't know how to relate to us. He didn't know how to.
Sure.
So like one of the things that I had seen in my life is that like I didn't know how to interact with older males.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was really scared of that. Like a new job and there's like an older male guy, I'd be so afraid. I'm like, I don't know how to have a conversation with this guy. I don't know how to approach this guy. Like, unless they approach me and start talking to me, I don't know how to approach these people. Whereas like what recovery's done for me is taught me that like, oh, I can approach people. And like, I can talk to older guys. And like, I have something to offer in a conversation. But I definitely think, and like, there's more work that I need to do around my relationship with my father. It's just, I haven't done a whole lot of it. Like, sure. I know that it's there, but yeah, I've definitely found that like, and there are still times where I'll lie, like I'm afraid to be honest with my sponsor because I'm afraid that he's just going to shame me.
Sure.
And guilt me just like my dad did.
Right.
If I didn't do something perfectly, I would get in trouble. So there is still definitely that aspect. It's gotten less and less, but I mean, it is still there.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that sort of thing is just like a really gradual like training out of yourself process. Yeah. Like I still react that way at times, when I have something I don't want to tell somebody. Honestly, like for better or worse, it's been a motivator in my recovery. Like, I don't want to talk to my sponsor about this. I better stop doing it. Like if I talk to him about it, if I stop right now, I only have to sort of mention it. If I keep doing it, we're going to spend some time talking about it, and I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
But
yeah. And it's weird because, like, for me, it's like I definitely went through this phase of my recovery where, like, I was way more willing to tell on myself than talk about it beforehand. Like, I knew I was going to go act out.
oh, right.
I knew I was going to go
Yeah.
act out, and I'm like, yeah, I'll just tell on myself after the fact.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to make a phone call right now because I want to go do this. But then afterwards, yeah, I'll call him and tell him.
Yep. Yeah, been there. That is definitely part of my lived experience as well.
Like, that whole idea of, like, ask for forgiveness and not permission.
Yep.
Like,
which is so weird because in every other aspect of my life, I do not live that way. Like I'm a permission guy. I'm a goody two shoes rule follower, like 100%.
yeah.
But when it came to that, it was never preventative action. It was always just like, how do I clean this up afterwards?
Yeah. Yeah. And when, like, I know that for me, like, I also had this data too that showed me that, like, because I had, like, made calls like that before. Like, I'm going to go act out. Let me make a phone call hoping that this will pull me out of it. And then I'd still end up going and acting out anyway. And so there was also the data there that said, oh, well, if you make a phone call, you're still going to go act out. So sounds like we're acting out either way. Now, don't get me wrong. There's been plenty of times where, like, I'll turn that car around, while I'm on the phone.
Right.
All right, man. Yeah, you're right. I really don't want to go do this. I'm going to turn the car around, metaphorically and physically. But there's also been times where I've made those calls and I've still followed through with it.
Yeah, it happens. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but that was probably like earlier on in your recovery that was happening more often than not. Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things where, like, I really think that, like, sexual recovery is a process thing. We read this statement, and you've been in that meeting. You've been in my meeting a couple times, so I'm sure you remember this. But well, more than a couple times. You used to come all the time, but at the end, we read the sobriety statement about how, like, 50% of the people who came at once sobered up, and then, some did after some relapses, and the remainder, showed improvement after some time. I mean, my experience with S recovery is that it's, been a long educational thing, and, I never win, but I do better, hopefully most times, after a relapse. But yeah, it like early on, I think, like, we still just have the monkey on our backs.
Yeah.
Like we're still just getting used to all this. Like, some people are so broken that they can come in and just get it. That wasn't me. I mean, my brain wasn't done developing yet. Like, my prefrontal cortex wasn't done cooking until I was like one less year old than I am today. So like, I was just, I don't want to say I was doomed to act out more, but, like, definitely early on in my recovery, like, I still just had that going on. There was not too much to be done about it,
Yeah.
Like, you just got to beat your head in the wall till you're done.
Yeah. And there's an aspect too of, like, being single for me.
I can't imagine, man.
Like,
I cannot imagine.
And, like, I try not to, like, because people know, because I haven't been in a relationship, right? So, like, I know that there's struggles that come with that.
Yeah,
that can trigger you. And I know the single side of things, and being like, well, I'm not hurting anybody else. I'm not cheating on anybody.
The classic excuse.
Total
classic.
I've used that so many times.
Yep.
Like, and it's like, well, and then really realizing, like, I'm hurting myself, right?
Yeah.
I'm hurting my spiritual condition. This is not my integrity. Like, this is not who I want to be. But I would use that justification, right? Because I'm over sexual or whatever it is that, like, well, I'm not hurting anybody. I'm not cheating on anybody else. So at least I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
And so it's tough though, man. No matter how you shake it, it's tough.
Yep.
It is hard.
It is a really hard thing. I really thought that, like, the thing that I've experienced in recovery lately is, like, in working with accepting other people, I've learned that acceptance does not mean enjoyment. And I thought that acceptance meant like I was just one with everything, and suddenly it all made sense and I just got it and I didn't have pain anymore. But what I found is that, like, acceptance means living in pain and being okay with it, and being able to accept when something's good for you or isn't, and being able to say, like, okay, I don't want this anymore. Like, part of my acceptance right now is, like, I had to accept that I had to quit my job. Like, I haven't put in my notice yet, but as soon as I have something else in hand, like, I'm gone. And I loved this job. Like
Yeah.
I was doing something like, just I was a butcher, and I was butchering in a way like we got whole animals in and we were taking out individual muscles. Like compared to what people do in grocery stores, like I'm a surgeon.
Yeah.
And it like scratched a lot of itches with my ego, and it felt really cool and it was fun. And I took a lot of enjoyment in this, but my situation became so unbearable and I was so radically humbled by like my own character defects in action that like I just couldn't accept this anymore. And that acceptance was like all I was going to get. I was never going to get to a place where everything was okay and I didn't hurt. I was never going to get to a place where I could outrun the issue or just ignore it. Like
Yeah.
it's still there, but I'm good with that.
I really like that. Acceptance doesn't mean joy.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's good.
My
man.
Al-Anon sponsor dropped that one on me and I was just like, fuck. That was
good,
heavy. Yeah.
man. That is good.
Yeah.
You're right.
That's the sticker for this episode. That's the title of the episode.
Right literally, as you started going into that explanation, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to clip this part. This is a good part to clip. Like, I love that.
Right on.
That's really good, man.
Cool.
Thank you for sharing that, man. That's
of course.
Whew.
Yeah. If there's one good bullet point in there, I think that's the nugget right there.
Yeah. That really was, man. On that note, I think, we're an hour and 36 in.
I was gonna say we've been at this for a while.
Hour and 36, and so I think that this is a good. Unless there's anything burning for you, I think this is a really good point to stop this at, man. And so I want to thank you again, man. Like, thank you for coming on, man. Thank you for being vulnerable, sharing your story. Like, it takes courage, and I think that I know for me, I can really downplay that in myself.
Yeah.
I can downplay the courage, and because it takes courage to do what we do. It takes courage to go into a meeting room, right? And that's not the whole world isn't even seeing that. Right. So it takes courage to come in here and do this and share your story, man. And I'm really grateful. And I'm really honored that you came in and blessed me with this conversation, man.
Oh yeah. Believe me, the pleasure's all mine. Like this has been a privilege to be able to do this. And, like I tell a lot of people when they come into their first meeting, like no one came in here on a winning streak. And I don't feel that way about this. Like I came in here like as something I wanted to do to put in my belt, like to keep myself sober. I was like, I don't have to worry about anything today. Like I'm going to do this podcast. I'm going to talk with a brother who knows what's up, and it's going to reinforce me that much more. So I got as much, if not more, out of this. Like I feel so great having done this. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Yeah, man, no problem. And now that you've been on once, you got to come back on again.
Yeah.
All right.
I will commit to that.
I love that, man. Cause we could keep talking, right?
Oh, of course.
Like we could, there's so much that we could talk about. And that's the beauty of recovery, man. And like, we could just keep having these conversations. And so, but again, man, Derek, thank you so much for coming on, man. I really appreciate it. It means a lot to me. Thank you, everybody that's joined me on my journey. Thank you so much for tuning in. If there's any topics or anything you'd like to hear me discuss, please feel free to email me, nolionshere@gmail.com. Again, that's nolionshere@gmail.com. Keep coming back.
It works if you work it. Sucks if you don't.
And you're worth it. Have a good one, guys.